Hey everybody, welcome to Watches with Dennis, and we're going to do a ToT. Oh, we have a crew. We've been messing with microphones for about 10 minutes now.
Sorry.
Desperately trying. Yeah, there's already apologies coming from the Canadian contingent. This is in no way surprising.
It's just you're in the background. I can see you right over here.
I'm in the background. I thought
Yeah,
I was
the
the one
reflection
talking,
just
and
it's
I
not.
was
It's
I was
just
in the
distracting.
and thus I was in the foreground. But regardless, so anyway, welcome. This is going to be one of our this or that episodes, and actually, I'm not the lead on this episode. The lead would be Tony. So Tony, I think most people know who I am because this is my channel. So anyway, I'm Dennis. I host Watches with Dennis. And oh yes, because we'll do of course a check on what watches people are wearing. Let me go and take mine off so I can get it near the camera. Today I am wearing my Orient Cano dive watch. So that I got as a Christmas present or birthday present. Excuse me, birthday present.
I like the red.
So, yes, that's why I asked for it. Is I like the red too, and I thought it was more affordable than a Norris, and it was way more affordable than a Mosier, and it might be more affordable than whatever Tony's got lined up for us today. But I don't know the answers.
It's definitely more affordable.
Don't know the answers to that. So Tony,
I can guarantee that.
Who are you,
Tony? Rolexes.
I'm wearing my Scuba Super 7 Scuba. It's orange,
Scuba.
Yeah.
but my lights are terrible.
It's very glary.
Blocking it out.
Oh, he didn't get the AR coating.
No.
Oh, it's ticking.
That's what I've been wearing.
It looked like
Yeah,
a good,
it's actually, it's the date was right too. If you'd had a chance to see it,
it looked like a
I'm
steady 3 hertz sweep there.
running real nice. So I'm Tony from the Eclectic Gamers Podcast, and tomorrow I'm jumping into freezing cold water because I'm dumb and I'm raising money for Special Olympics.
I saw you were very close to breaking $1,000 when I looked this.
I hit $920 today, and if anybody is willing to donate to Special Olympics, there's a link in chat. So yay!
Donate.
All right, Dave, you're next in my
Yes.
in my corners of Hollywood squares because we're not really Hollywood. Watch squares.
Yes. Yeah. What's like a really cheap Hollywood? What's like a really bad Hollywood?
Bollywood.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been hearing
Is
some really
Bollywood
good stuff
bad?
coming out of Bollywood now. I was going to say, what's that? Reno. Like
Reno. Yeah. What's the Reno
it's the cheap
version?
Vegas. It's the cheap Hollywood. Why not?
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, totally.
Come on.
Yeah. Atlantic
Forget it.
City, New
Forget
Jersey,
about it.
right?
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Ooh.
I am David Dennis. I'm one of the co-hosts of Silverball Chronicles, a pinball history podcast on the Pinball Network. You can check us out at patreon.com/Silverball Chronicles or silverballchronicles.com. Today, I'm wearing my Moon Swatch
Oh, Mission to the Sun.
Mission to the Sun. Very bright. We've got the bright watches going on here. Lots of colors. So I recently picked this up on my trip to Toronto to work, and I paid retail.
Oh,
and
that's
after
good.
having it, after having it for a few weeks, I'm glad I paid retail, because if I had paid double retail price, it's not worth it. Just wait, buy it retail.
Indeed. And Mike, last but not least, a first time. You're new to POTS.
Yeah. First time. I am just, I'm Mike Hamilton. I am wearing the G-Shock Solar Flare. Love this watch. Little glare, but I absolutely love it. Love the colors. It's got a little glowy dark stuff going on. It's super fun. But I am just the husband of Amanda Hamilton, who's from Free Play Pinball. So I believe you guys have had her on before.
You're a pinball spouse. You're a pinball spouse.
I am.
You are.
I am.
You are.
The lower half.
But pinball and watches, they often go hand in hand. They're mechanical devices. That's what I think draws the attraction here. And we've got a few guests showing up. So we've got I can't pronounce all of that. Kievrit. We'll just say Hart. Hart says good evening from Balmy, Illinois. Of course, Kevin did welcome us from Lakeland, Florida. He often watches these.
Nice and warm.
Hart did ask, since David is here, where's Joel? I had Joel on once, and that one, it was rough. It was rough for David, and so I try and be supportive of the guests and just let the conflict be about the watches, not about the infighting that plagues pinball and never would plague watches in no way. The nice thing about having a channel this small is I'm not involved in any of the watch drama. Tony's aware of some of the interesting antics that happen in the watch world because it's an interesting
There's some
place.
definitely interesting stuff in the watch world.
Yes. So anyway, for those who are tuning in for the first time, very simple. I'll explain the game really quick, and then Tony's actually going to run it. He's come up with. I'm going to handle the screen sharing, but he
This is
actually came up
exciting.
with.
This is a big
It
deal
is.
for Tony.
It is. I have not examined other than the first one because I had to test my screen. I've not really looked at any of these, so it'll be interesting to see what he's got in terms of matchups. But for those that have never done a this or that, it's very much like a would you rather. It's that style of game. So we're going to have a couple of watches up on the screen. Tony's going to explain a little bit of information about them, and then we're just going to go round robin about which one we would pick. I will plan to go ahead and put the watches in the chat so people can vote for their pick, so that in a poll, and then that way, when I close the poll, we'll also know what the audience thinks because we may all be wrong. I don't know how that would happen, but it is conceivable.
I'm pretty
possible.
sure it's happened at least once.
Yeah, maybe just once. I think just once it happened. But anyway, so let me go ahead and put us as teeny tiny people. And actually, let me put us all on the side so we can all see the stats. There we go. So
There
Tony,
we go.
what do we got for ToT 1? ToT round 1.
For ToT 1, I started out with a pair of watches from Super Groupies. Super Groupies, if you don't know about them, is a website that does limited runs of stuff for video games, anime, stuff like that. And they include a lot of watches. So I picked 2 video game watches, neither of which are actually available anymore. Their runs have finished because they do 30-day runs of all sorts of stuff. But I picked the Cyberpunk 2077 watch, retailed for $308, diameter 40 millimeters. Water resistance is not, 3 atmospheres is not water resistant at all. It's like
It's washing your hands.
Yeah, maybe.
It's
if you don't do a very good job. But the movement is a Seiko NH39A at 3 hertz. And it's just designed with the basic Cyberpunk logo and the yellow and the kind of gearing and stuff. And against it, I put a Bayonetta watch from the Bayonetta video game series. It retailed at $320, a diameter 43 millimeter. Slightly more water resistance at 5, so it's almost wash your hands with. The movement is a Chinese P2650 SSZ. Both of these are mechanical automatic watches, which is why I chose these ones over a quartz. On the Bayonetta, it's got a little crystal stones at the 6 and 12 representing the various eyes from Bayonetta and demonic script around the dial from her magic circles. And that's where I went to start this run off with, is a nice little video game homage.
Okay.
Well,
I do have the poll live in the chat for the audience, so they can go ahead and start voting whenever. Who do you want to start with, Tony? Who?
yeah, this is all.
Might as well just start. Yeah, might as well just start below me. Start with Mike. That way I'm last.
All right. Sheer fact here, I'm gonna have to choose the Bayonetta because the Cyberpunk one probably doesn't work right. And I do wash my hands a little bit more frequently, so for that. But the movement for the Cyberpunk might be a little nicer. But again, I'm in Florida. I wash my hands. I need 2 more ATMs, and I like the dial.
Yeah, nice.
Low in the Cyberpunk on the. It just seems kind of dull. They could have done a lot more with that if they'd have tried.
Okay, so Mike is voting for Bayonetta.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, as much as, so I haven't played Cyberpunk and I know all the drama about the launch of that, but I think I'm gonna go with that mostly because of the movement, because it has the Seiko movement, the Japanese movement, right over the Chinese movement. They're not of course the Chinese movement not very good at avoiding radar in comparison to the Japanese
or moving quickly.
But other than that, I'm not a big fan of skeleton style watches, right, where you can see through the watch and see all the stuff inside. I kind of prefer that on the back of the watch. So looking at that Bayonetta watch, there's a lot going on. And the hands are all crazy. The 6 and the 12 are all crazy. There's just too much going on for me in that one. And that's why I'm going to go with the Cyberpunk watch. It's got much nicer sword style hands. It's got a nice little sweeping minutes there. Sweeping seconds, rather. Looks great. I'm going to go with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with the P2650 movement either. I don't know a lot about Chinese movements, a little bit. It's like some stuff coming out of Siegel and such, which is fairly well respected. And I know there's also a lot lower end stuff that often is in very, very affordable watches. All that being said, the NH line from Seiko, workhorse movement, not impressive. Out of the factory, specs are usually not that great on them, but purportedly they hold up quite well. Between these two, I mean, quite bluntly, I think both of these watches are pretty unattractive. So I mean, obviously I have to pick, but they both kind of piss me off in certain different ways.
Ooh, spicy.
So, well, all right. So starting with the Cyberpunk one, which is the only one of the two games I've played. Okay, the whole blue stuff down at the bottom there, it looks to me like a circuit board, right? So it almost is screaming to me that it's supposed to be a quartz watch, and that would be part of the movement structure for the quartz to power through and do the whole regulation of the movement. But as Tony noted, this is a mechanical watch, so it's a lie. The circuitry is a lie. It's fake. It's simply decorative. The asymmetry doesn't feel balanced at all to me with the watch. I don't like the use of the yellow on it. I think it's unattractive in the extreme. The Bayonetta watch is too big. I don't like skeletonized movements. The hands are way too elaborate. And I am worried about opening a portal to the demonic realm, given the script on it. It's like wearing the One Ring. Should we really be having Dark Elvish on our hand? Probably not. And so I'm a little concerned about that. All that being said, between the two, at least from a more of a distance, I think the Bayonetta watch looks better. So I'm going to go ahead and say, of these two, I would take the Bayonetta watch, even though at 43 millimeters, I'm not sure that I can pull it off. But it's more about the lug to lug. I have watches as big as 45 diameter that I think I can wear. But so this one might be okay. But yeah, at least it's trying to be elegant from a distance. The Cyberpunk one looks like it wants to be a dive watch, and it's splash resistant. So I don't get it. But whatever. Yeah, I know it doesn't have a bezel, but I mean, it's bright yellow. That's like a dive color. So Tony, it's currently 2 in favor of Bayonetta and 1 for Cyberpunk.
Well, I'm going with Bayonetta for a lot of the reasons that have already been stated. Also on the Cyberpunk, the yellow, the cutouts at the 6, 12, 3, and 9 into the yellow just rage the heck out of me. I think they're terrible. But the Bayonetta I felt was the better of this selection. But I agreed neither of them were great, but I wanted to get some video games in there, watches in there before we get serious. So.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I've had some where I've been torn before, Tony, but this is the first time where I think I actually really disliked both choices. Just like,
oh man,
fundamentally,
you cannot forget that Formula One Red Bull quartz. Oh,
so what we ended up with is 3-1 in favor of the Bayonetta watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and everybody chose the lesser.
The
lesser of two evils.
With the public, Cyberpunk won 60%.
Ugh. Well, they're wrong.
So see, he's already at the.
I'm a man of the people. I'm a man of the people.
Okay, so we got the first one there. Let me make some adjustments so the screen share, so you won't be able to see. I do see in the chat, Mr. Hart has said neither one is really grabbing me. Probably wouldn't wear either one. Yeah, this is a sort of one where, like, what would you do if like your child gave you one of those two? I don't
call
know
the cops.
Answer. Yeah. Call Child Protective Services.
Disown them.
You need the protection. You need the protection. Okay, so. Tony, go ahead and walk us through your second matchup. Ooh, I've actually heard of these watches.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, no, I went serious. I went real serious starting after the first round. The watches here are the Omega Railmaster and the Rolex Milgauss. The Railmaster retails for $7,100. It's got a 38 millimeter diameter, water resistant to 60 meters. It's got the Omega's caliber 8806 with a 55-hour reserve and 3.5 hertz. Now, the big thing on both of these watches is their original versions came out in the 50s, and they were originally designed for like scientists and working types that are around a lot of electrical fields. They're both heavily protected against magnetic fields. The Railmaster is protected up to 15,000 Gauss. And then on the Rolex Milgauss, it is also protected up to 1,000 Gauss. Thus the Milgauss. It retails for $9,300. It's got a diameter of 40 millimeters. It's water resistant to 100 meters. It's got the 3131 movement, 48 hours power reserve at 4 hertz. The big thing here is it has that emerald glass on it, and the Milgauss has that lightning bolt second hand that is kind of the defining thing for the Milgauss.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one. So, and I think this time, Dave, you get to start off this time.
Yeah. Of all of the Rolexes, actually, probably my top 3 is a Milgauss, which is funny because it's the weird Rolex, right? It's the quirky one for the young folk like me. And although when it comes to this specific matchup, that Railmaster is so pretty. It's so simple. It's so like dressy and elegant. And it has that 8806 movement inside. That is a proper movement. That is the coaxial escapement movement. This is the master chronometer. So this is like the second or third variation of that coaxial escapement. That is a heck of a movement. And I gotta go with that.
Okay, 1 vote for the Railmaster. Make it 2. I'm going to vote for the Railmaster as well. I'll lead with my decision, and then I'll explain it. Okay, so you noted like a fondness for the Rolex Milgauss, and my apologies to those watching the recording or watching live. I do not like the Milgauss. I find it extremely way too out there, and it's funny because really it's quite a conservative watch. It's just out there for Rolex. The lightning bolt hand is probably the only fun thing about it I like. I do not like the green sapphire crystal. I think it's weird. I think it looks too much like a Coke bottle. I'm not cool with it. The orange on it, I like orange, but I don't like how they used it here. I think Omega, actually, with their Planet Oceans, has a lot better use of orange than this Milgauss is executing with like black and orange. So I don't like that very much either. The Gauss resistance is great, except at this point, honestly, getting 1,000 Gauss out of a Rolex is like no problem. I don't even know what this watch serves as a purpose anymore. And there's constant rumors that they're going to discontinue this watch, at least for a while, and bring it back with a new look, because it's had some different looks over the years. Whereas the Railmaster is so clean. It's so classic. The biggest criticism I would have with it, and I think most people, if they were to have a criticism, would have with it, is that it uses that Fotina, that artificially browned lume on it. I think they pulled it off. I think it actually doesn't look tacky. I think it actually looks, and Omega is actually one of the better companies in my opinion with Fotina. I think that titanium James Bond watch, which is dripping in Fotina, actually looks pretty good too. But given between these two, especially this particular reference, because there are other Milgauss looks, like there's an old white one that's really clean. I think they've got a blue one as well, which looks, this is like the worst one. So given that, and this classic sandwich dial, well, the Railmaster is not my favorite Omega. For me, this is an easy pick, Omega over the Milgauss. So 2 for Omega now.
You could have just said you loathed that Rolex. That would have summed it up.
I don't loathe it. Like, this isn't like the Cyberpunk watch.
It sounds like loathing.
It's not loathing. It's too fun. It's too fun.
Huh.
It's too fun to
Too
be a
fun for a
Rolex.
Rolex.
And this is well, and here's my full. I mean, okay.
Rolex is where fun goes
it
to die.
sounds so pretentious. I like for me, dive watches are fun watches. That's where I want to have fun. Like colorful. Like this Orient when the red dial. I have fun with the dive watches. This is super serious science watch. It needs to be serious. It can have its lightning bolt to be eccentric.
Right.
That's it.
Focus.
That's it. But that's just me, Tony. It's your matchup.
You got to go.
Of all the
Rolex
matchups we have tonight, this is the hardest one for me.
I wondered, is this one of the ones because you've always been teasing?
That's my favorite Rolex.
Because you poop on Rolex like on every ToT that you're on
that is my favorite Rolex.
Of
all the Rolexes.
This dial
every Rolex. I prefer this dial to the blue dial that they have out there currently.
Even over a Daytona?
Definitely over a Daytona. Now there is
that's wrong, but okay.
There was a limited set of Milgausses from the early 60s that had a honeycomb dial, which is amazing. I've only seen a couple of them online, and they're hundreds of thousands of dollars because it was a fairly limited run. But this is also my favorite Omega of all Omegas. So
really,
for me,
more than the Planet Oceans.
Yes, yes, it is. The Railmaster is my favorite Omega, and that's partially why I made this choice here. And I can tell you, I hadn't really decided between the two coming into it. Everything else I've already had a decision on from when I made it, but this one, it's hard. I would literally take either one with no qualms at all. At the force to grab, I think I would go with the Omega, but it's tight. It's super tight. The big difference being for me is I like Dennis said, I really like the Fotina setup. I really like the giant arrowhead hour hand. I think it looks really nice. I think it goes really well with this setup. So for those reasons, I would go with the Railmaster. But both of these watches are just loves of mine. I love them both.
Okay. 3 for the I respect the picking something that you're so torn on you didn't know the answer even after doing the design. Mike, you get to round us out here.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't think we're at a price point right now that we should be able to just ignore the fact that this is $2,200 more for the Rolex. I don't think we're at that point yet. So, and also I work for the railroad, so the whole Omega Railmaster, just that name is fun, right? Right?
You have to take it.
I mean, one would think, but I would absolutely not take that one. I would have to go to the Rolex. I mean, the little dial hand that's like Harry Potter, that kind of fun. You got
the Harry Potter edition Rolex.
Yeah, you know it.
Rolex would be the one to do it.
So I like the more fun approach. I think there's so many watches out there that a lot of them start looking the same, and you get them a little different. That's what grabs my eye. But it's not easy, being $2,200 more for this one. So
that's a lot.
It is, and again, we're not at a price point where we can go, whatever. It's just buy it. No, we're not. So that's still a hard one to swallow. But I gotta go. I gotta go with the Rolex.
All right. It was 3-1 in favor of the Omega. I do see Cloudkin joined us on the live stream. Welcome, Cloud. And he noted that, in his opinion, is the worst Milgauss dial. If you had gone Z Blue, and it would have been the Milgauss all the way. I still probably would have leaned Omega. I need to look again at the Z Blue. I've only ever looked at it. I mean, it shows up a lot. Let's be fair, because it's Rolex.
Is that like the Z Blue? Is that like the Z Blue?
No, it's not. It's totally different.
It's totally different.
And closing out the poll of our audience who are watching live, they picked the Railmaster 71%. So a lot of love for that. I mean, it's a clean watch.
And in chat, I see David put a link up to that honeycomb dial Milgauss.
And I've also looked up the Z Blue Milgauss, and that is correct. That is the correct dial. Ooh, it is beautiful.
Over the black.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the honeycomb. Yeah, no, I like honeycomb dials a lot actually. Rolex does have a honeycomb. It's not the normal. It's like a lot more stretched out as part of their date just line that they dropped a year or two ago, which looks okay. I did have a Ming that was honeycomb that I really, really liked. Unfortunately, the watch crown was uncomfortable. Only watch I ever had where a watch crown actually was uncomfortable, but I ended up trading that away because it was not comfortable to wear, but I loved that dial.
You have very sensitive fingertips.
Yeah, my little baby. Little teeny hands. My little teeny fingers. Okay, so we are ready for the ToT number 3. So let me get that on the screen. I'm going to start typing while Tony starts talking to get the poll ready for the audience.
Tony, I love you.
I had to find something to get here in the middle before things got crazy. I went with the IWC Pilot Watch Le Petit Prince. It's a $6,850 watch, 43 millimeter diameter, water resistant to 60 meters. The movement's the 79-320 with a 44-hour power reserve at 4 hertz. And it is it's got the blue dial that I obviously missed on the Milgauss. but it's got the chronograph function with it's the day date display. It's got the air pressure, displacement, safety, all the fun stuff on it. And when I went against it, I took the Bremont Alt 1C. Bremont is a British company, they're based in the UK. They use the Valjoux 7750 with a 42-hour power reserve at 4 hertz. Its retail price is $6,595 with also 43 millimeter diameter and a water resistance of 100 meters. And it was just I really liked the cream, kind of the Panda thing, but it's more cream than just the straight white on the Panda when I picked these two together.
Okay. Oh, I guess I start on this one. Okay. Actually, this one would be pretty easy for me. I would pick the IWC Le Petit Prince for a few reasons. One, I do normally like cream dials, but this one's not clicking with me out of the Bremont, and I think IWC does a very nice radiant blue. Bremont has two things, though, in particular that are going against it for me, aside from, like, both have a pretty good design overall that I would normally like, except the Bremont has violated one of my fundamental design rules. Their subdials are cutting into the Arabic numerals of the 9 and the 3. It's unacceptable. It's a deal breaker. I won't acquire any watch that does it. IWC has done it on some of their watches. They came close here, but even the 10 is not cropped. But you can see that 9 is missing its right flank because that subdial has cut it off. And that may have been cool in the old pocket watch days, but it ain't cool anymore, and I don't like it. So it's okay to completely remove the numerals, but it's not okay to cut into the numeral.
Damn right.
Correct.
That's what he says.
That's right. That's exactly right. And for those, I have to keep alternating mics. Gets a little bit of static, so if I have to toggle some online settings, and then he's okay for a few minutes. So for people that hear that, that's what I'm fixing. I'm fixing it. It's okay. So yes, that's one of my rules. Maybe I'll break the rule someday. Rules are meant to be broken, but so far I have held fast to that.
Dennis is not a rule breaker.
Not normally, no. The other thing is that Valjoux. Oh no, no. I had an H31, which is based on a Valjoux. I can't remember if the 7750 was the baseline for the H31 or not. I'll probably research that, but the problem I had with it, and I'm going to assume it holds true with all of their chronographs, is the way that they've set up that module is it's got a very loud, very shaky rotor, unidirectional rotor. I had a Hamilton with a Valjoux in it, and it felt like the watch was going to fly off of my wrist. I could actually do a movement like this, and I could feel it go. No.
How did that go?
It's like the Canadian loon.
Yes.
So for those reasons, IWC.
It's actually a loon.
All right.
Dennis,
next,
how many lots? How do you follow that up?
He is.
Good luck.
He's dropping the fire. Very much so. In this case, I'm going with the Bremont. I like the cream panda style dial. I like the just date down at the 6 o'clock, and it just feels slightly less busy than the Le Petit Prince does to me. So for those reasons, that's the route I'm going to go. I have nothing to say about a Valjoux movement because I've never experienced one. It could be hands all going nuts when you're using it, but I have no experience, so I don't know.
Some people do like it. They actually like the momentum. I did check. The H31 is based off the Valjoux 7753, but the only difference between the movements is where the subdials are positioned and the date.
Huh.
It's the same movement otherwise. They just moved where those features would appear.
He's like an encyclopedia.
No, I looked it up on Google. I can't remember. I couldn't.
He's like Google.
Okay, so Tony picked the ALT. Mike, you're up.
Oh boy! All right. All right.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know, man. Younger Mike looks at Bremont, and I like the cream dials. I like the contrast of the sub dials. I don't get nearly as offended by cropping of the number 9. But old Mike can't read that worth of shit. I can't. Where are my dials? I don't know. I can't see them. And the Valjoux movement, it sounds like that's what you dip the sandwich in. So I don't know.
It's an Oju.
Oh, okay, that's what that is. So I gotta go with the Le Petit Prince, as they say over there in Spain. But I don't really like the subdials on it. They're the same. They're probably slightly different, but they, at least on this picture, they look very close to the same color as the main dial. And I want that contrast. I want the contrast.
Okay.
A reluctant IWC pick.
Like most. I am there's
Ouch. Oh, so mean.
I'm a fanboy for Omega and IWC.
And Breitling. Aren't you all you Canadians big into Breitling?
I enjoy a few Breitlings.
That's what I thought. It's
Not
like
the
rule.
2000 Breitlings, though.
It's the
Those are
poutine
like
of Canada watches is Breitling.
terrible. But anyway, Le Petit Prince is one of my favorite IWC watches. It is beautiful on that bracelet. The pushers on the 7.9 320, they're solid. I saw one of these when I was in Toronto at one of the watch dealers up there. I put it on my wrist. It's not too heavy, but that blue dial, a proper pilot's watch, like it is just beautiful. Love that watch. No, not even going to talk with you.
Okay, so we had 3 for the IWC, and Tony stuck with and I'm not sure if it's pronounced Bremont or not, but the ALT won. So let me go ahead and close the poll, and then we'll catch up on the chat real quick. This one actually was pretty close. The poll did break for IWC, but only 57%, so it's the closest matchup we've had so far. And there were a couple of chat items here. So Richard, welcome Richard to the live stream, did say that he thought the IWC Portugueser would have been a good comparison. I'm assuming a good comparison up against the ALT1. Yeah, I don't know. There are Portuguesers that are chronos, I'm pretty sure. But I always think, I like the pick here that Tony made with the selection, mostly because I don't know, it seems so different, but in a way, like the dial, like lots of Arabic numerals is like a Portuguese staple. So I could see where it would maybe be like visually a more apropos watch, perhaps. So anyway, that was interesting. And then this was something I wasn't familiar with. I've shared a link in the chat, but the Game Range, welcome live stream, had asked what are our general thoughts on Zarek, if I'm saying that right, Zarek watches. I think I'd heard of Zarek one time as I go to their site. But I have to be honest, I don't really know anything about them. They clearly have a very, very unique design, and I believe their pricing is pretty low, like they're affordable watches. So taking a look at some of the stuff they've got, it's pretty out there for it's like sub $1,000 watches.
I'm familiar with the holograph ones that have the circles. I've seen those quite a few times.
Yeah, I've probably
I think
seen
they did like a Kickstarter or something.
I think as like a second watch, it doesn't have to be literally your second watch, but I think as like as I believe in having like regular watches and then fun watches, where maybe time telling isn't the number one feature, or like, well, then that's of course what Swatch is all about. Is Swatch is supposed to stand for second watch. I would say, like, looking at, and I haven't spent a lot of time with Zarek, I would lean more towards like what Mr. Jones Watches does before I would turn to something like Zarek, where you're looking at a lot of really artistic sort of stuff being placed on a dial. And this, of course, the time telling tends to be secondary with Mr. Jones watches, or at least a number of them. But that's more my style than this. This is a little too extreme for me. But I could see where it would be if you were just looking for something really funky. They look like they got funky down better than Swatch does. But of course, Swatch is going with a different angle entirely. So
I really kind of like the halographs. Those are pretty interesting. But the little triptych ones just look like they would rage the heck out of me trying to read that triptych. I mean, that's just
makes Tony angry. Tony smash.
Tony angry.
And Richard has noted that Zarek are good conversation starters. And yeah, looking at these dials, I could see. And
definitely.
That's where one of the fun things about fun watches in general are. I've told the story before, so I won't belabor it. But my Mr. Jones watches, Ricochet, the pinball one, I've had more people ask me to look at that watch than my entire collection combined. Now, granted, I wore it to a pinball convention, so that probably helped.
Convenient.
Yeah,
that's cheating.
Look, we don't. No, is my generosity that I'm sharing these stories with you to provide context. Like, I'm sharing my methodology. But that being said, like, if I walk to a watch convention, are people going to ask me very much about the Kano? I don't know. Orient's pretty well known. Probably not. They'll probably be like, "Wow, you didn't get Kamasu?" That's what everyone gets from Orient. But anyway, so now we've got matchup number 4. So let me get it on the screen. Tony. Oh, we got a couple of brands I really like and have never owned because they're very expensive.
Yes,
they are. These are both I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Tourbillon watches.
Tourbillon.
Yeah,
I've botched it in my own videos. Yeah, I believe it's Tourbillon.
So we've got the A. Lanson 1815 Tourbillon in 18 karat pink gold. Retails for $130,000. It's 39.5 millimeters. Water resistant 30 meters. And it's got the L102.1 with the 72-hour power reserve at 3 hertz. This is a manually wound movement on the A. Lanson. And then we have the Breguet Classique 5317 BR 1296, which is also $130,000 with a diameter of 39 millimeters, water resistance of 30 meters. And it's got the 587 DR, which is an automatic movement with 120-hour power reserve at 3 hertz. Also in rose gold.
Okay, and
$100 more.
Yes, a whole $100 more, and
whole $100 more.
Because
I guess it would be me starting. These two watches are both so similar and so different. For me, it really comes down.
Why not both?
For me, it really comes down to the difference in the dial, because the Breguet has kind of the checking and the work and the almost tooling like work, and it's got the blue screws on the tourbillon, which I think makes it a little bit busier and combined with the Roman numerals, but I think it looks better than the A. Langenson 1815, though I prefer the blue hands on the 1815 to the blue hands on the Breguet, but I'm going to go with the Breguet.
All right, one for the Breguet. Mike?
This one is I loathe the Langenson. I do like the Breguet or bidet. I don't know how you say that. I'm a sucker for Roman numerals, though. I know you're not going to choose this one, Dennis.
So you're a big fan of Super Bowls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you get me.
I'm trying to figure out. You loathe the 1815.
I just for that kind of money, like, okay, the tourbillon is really cool right in there, but what is that? Times Roman? What is that? The text they use? I just like get out of here for that kind of money. Like, quit. I just like. But coupled to that, I'm a sucker for Roman numerals, like I said, even though Dennis will hate it because it looks like some are cropped. I mean, look at the 12; it's 90% cropped. But, man, I just like the Breguet.
All right, 2 for Breguet. Dave, you're up.
This is a tough one, right? You want to go with the Breguet Classique because you want to go with the brand. You want everybody to know you have a Breguet, and it's been around since like what, the 1700s or something. But I like this. I mean, there's a lot of money, but I like the simpler of the A. Langenson. It's cleaner, it's simpler, it's takes itself maybe more seriously as opposed to being like flashy and gaudy. But I mean, like this is ridiculous for this amount of money. But I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the Langenson.
Okay, so we got 2 for Breguet, 1 for Langenson. And Richard has said that he agrees with Mike. For that money, it could have at least been an automatic movement, not hand wind only. Okay, this is interesting. All right, so they're both rose gold, which is a personal favorite of mine in gold. Or Longa, I think, actually calls theirs pink gold, but you can see it's exactly the same as what you would think. I do believe it's kind of hard to tell in the photo, but I do believe this is actually like a pebbled texture, like a powder coat. When you look really close at how remembering other dials of what they've done on other 1815s, I think that it's got a little bit of texture to it once you look really close. It's obviously easier to see in the Breguet. This one, it's tough for this one. Yeah, this one's all right. So Mike is right. But maybe the Breguet breaks the rule on the cropping, because I didn't even notice the 12 at first because it's so cropped. It's almost like it was an accident. It's an accident. And this is a pretty busy dial. It's a pretty busy dial. I mean, we've got a second track markings. Of course, this one has it too, but this uses a traditional. The Alonga uses a traditional railroad track. The Breguet's got the dots. I actually like the Breguet texturing that they do, like that guilloche that they do to the dial. I don't like the number 3066 off on the right, but it does provide balance to the dial. I will say my hat's off to Breguet. They were just like, what? People don't like power reserves on the dial? Well, now it's going to be 1/3 of the whole dial. Enjoy it, because that's just taking up this huge chunk of space, whereas Longa goes with this very clean look. But that being said, while they both have really, really respectable power reserves, Breguet's like, I mean, it is 120 hours. I can see why they want to flex on it, because that's quite a power reserve. Push comes to shove on this. I actually am a bigger fan of Longa as a brand, but I think the Longa 1 is where it's at with their dress watch line. And honestly, if I'm dropping $130,000, I am breaking my rule and I will get the Breguet, because at this point I'm just showing off just how much money I have. The hands on that Breguet, they're called Breguet style hands. They're from the pocket watch era. I worry that's a little too busy, but honestly, the Longa looks a little too plain for this price point. And tourbillons are not my favorite feature. So I actually don't care for the tourbillon very much on either of these, but I think it's better positioned on the Breguet, where it's not cropping really into anything, and you can see it's cropping into the railroad track on the Longa. So I'm getting a crop no matter what. I'll go with the Breguet. I'll go with the Breguet. So I think we ended up with 3 Breguet picks and 1 Longanzona pick. And let me go ahead and see what the audience chose, if I can end the poll. And the poll is 50-50. It was a tie.
Wow.
Yes. That's right. Absolute madness. And we do have a few chat folks coming in. I know Richard agreed with someone on something, but I have no idea when he said it. So I have no idea.
It was clearly me. It was clearly me.
You know, it could have clearly been you.
I think it's on the if you can afford the watch, you can afford to have someone wind it for you. Comment.
Okay, yeah, I missed that from Von Krull, and welcome to the live stream, Von Krull. Yes.
I'll put you guys. I'm going to give you guys a little teaser. That wasn't the most expensive watches in
really
ToT.
It's not.
Nice.
Okay. That's
just let you know,
because it's getting pretty bad. There's only one more matchup left. Cloud is weighed in. Come on, Tony. Let's get to the Pepsi Oyster versus Jubilee matchup.
Yes,
I didn't bring that one out this time. I knew I had to do a Rolex, so I went with one I actually liked.
Tony's birthday is in April. I have been sorely tempted to get him a Pepsi bezeled watch, but I think it would just hit the trash or hit eBay because
not hit the trash.
Get him a Pepsi GMT just to make him angry.
Just so he can have to go and be like,
oh
boy, oh
wow. Thanks for this $40,000 watch.
And Von Krull did know the Breguet looks more like money. You may be getting more watchmaker hours for your 130K. Now, interestingly, if you were to go like gray or second hand, both of those watches probably take a pretty big hit. Longa and Breguet do not hold value very well, especially dress watches. That's like a general dress watch rule. Breguets are notoriously undervalued on their lower end pieces, and lower end for Breguet is like everything's still over $10,000. So it's interesting. They're both, I think they're both very, very good brands. Breguet's got the history. I think Longa showed that the Germans can do high horology right up there with the Holy Trinity. So I think they're both really respectable brands. I don't think either have quite found their footing yet, though. Longa with its, they do have a sports watch now that's extremely popular. So Longa actually, of course, but that's different.
Yeah,
that's different than what we were talking about.
Popular too.
So, final battle. And Tony was not kidding. He doubled the price points almost.
Holy
What is this? What is this madness we're looking at, Tony?
Okay. On the left, we have the Vacheron Constantin twin beat perpetual calendar. Retails at $200,000 approximately. Diameter 42 millimeter, water resistant 30 millimeter. The movement is a Vacheron 3610 QP. It's the reason it's called a twin beat is that button at the 8 o'clock point. If you hit that button, it changes from being a 5 hertz movement with a 96-hour power reserve to a 1.2 hertz movement with a 65-day power reserve. It is a hand wind only perpetual calendar, but with the ability to cut the hertz down and give yourself a large amount of time, it helps with your trying to keep it wound.
So
imagine trying to set that calendar.
Your butler would do it.
I have a hard enough time on some of my Casios trying to get the calendar correct.
Watch butler.
And yeah, watch butler. With this brand, you could have a watch butler. That's true. And I went up against it with because the Vacheron is a much more kind of almost modernish look. I went with the Patek Grand Complication 5160 500G, which is also a perpetual calendar.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Its movement is the 324 SQR with a 45 hour power reserve at 4 hertz. The big thing is I've got a link to the G. I will share it. The whole thing about the Patek is definitely the case. The entire case is hand carved. The back is hinged, so it's sapphire crystal on the to show the movement in the back with a hinged metal cover that can be popped open like an old pocket watch, so you can look in through the back and then close it back up. But I went with 2 high-end but very different styles of watches this time around.
Interesting. Now, Tony, I'm not sure if it'll let you share link. Just say hi or something in the chat, Tony, so then I can give you permissions.
Here, I can give you the link in the software thing. And
okay, whatever works for you.
There, I'll send it in the private chat, and you can put it up. There's the Patek.
Now, is this the one? This isn't the Grand Complication. Doesn't have the chime, right? Like it doesn't have it. Because it's got some. That's a crazy watch.
You cut out on me.
Oh, is that the one that has the chimes? The Grand Complications.
I'm trying to remember if this was the one that had the chimes. This is the retrograde. This is not the chimes. Yeah, this isn't the chimed one. I was looking at some other ones with chimes. Yes, it has a little of everything. It's the perpetual calendar with the retrograde date on it, all in white gold.
Mm. Wow, I'm gonna toss this into the chat there. This is something else.
Yeah, this is a different league.
I'll go. I'm gonna jump in here. This Grand Complications is where I'm at. I like Patek Philippe. They just scream class in almost everything they do, low end or high end. And we're in a totally different league here, but the amount of watchman or watch person hours in the bezel and crown alone, seeing the calendar in the center, the day, the month, and the sweeping calendar on the inside. You can see it there in the picture, right? You got 1 to 31, which sweeps through the calendar. That is a gorgeous watch. Now, granted, it is also a bit gaudy, right? Like it's a bit, look at all the carvings and all the whatever. I much prefer the cleaner, more modern look of the Vacheron Constantin, but I mean, I'm going to go with the Patek Philippe if I've got FU money like this, right?
Yeah, that's I could see it. It's I mean, they're both Holy Trinity brands, these two, and then Audemars Piguet is the one that's not in. And I've got the link now posted. And Tony, I think you can share links now. I think I've got that enabled. Gosh, I'm going to agree with Dave. I'm going to go with the Patek as well. I do not. I mean, I'm so torn. And Vaughn in the chat, I agree with him in the sense that the tech is way more impressive. I don't know that the movement here with Patek is a newer movement. We've done this style of Grand Complication for quite a while. I don't like the whatever this is with the 3 here. It's weird. In terms of, I don't remember that's keeping track of. I don't remember what that's keeping track of. It doesn't matter.
That's leap year.
I wondered if it was maybe the leap year indicator.
Yeah, that's the leap year.
I prefer the one where there's like a little dot in the dial, and then when it's leap year, it's like red, and the rest of the time it's the color of the dial or white or something. I like the case carving. I prefer the hands. I don't like the. I don't like the whole dial look of the Vacheron annoys me. I don't like the skeletonized going train being visible. I don't like the font they did for the months. I don't hate it as much, but I don't like the font they did for the days. It's so modern, yet it's like trying to be modern and elegant at the same time. I don't like that you can see the leap years exposed, and then the current year is the one in the front. I don't like how it looks, and I don't really like Patek's choices either. I've never liked their font choices at Patek. Almost every Patek annoys me, but it's less offensive. So we're back to ToT number 1. I'll go with the Patek because it's less offensive to me. But the Vacheron technologically is more.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, and I'm in a similar boat to you. I think the Patek it's art. It is just a pure work of art. But at the same time, I can't see myself actually wearing the Patek.
Yeah.
It's I mean, honestly,
I can't see myself
beautiful.
wearing it either.
But
if I had FU money, even then, it's so. But with the carving, I think it is beautiful. I think it's an amazing showpiece. I can't actually imagine myself wearing it. If you've seen some of the other pictures, like some of the, I wonder how the case feels with the carvings and the designs on the back. How that feels on your wrist.
These are like
and the technology of the Vacheron,
right?
That's exactly what these are, Saudi Prince watches.
Yeah, and I think that
the Vacheron, the technology of having it.
Well, let me ask you something, Tony. Now I want you to imagine that maybe you were like dressed as Meatloaf. Which one would you wear? The singer, not the actual dish. Which would you wear?
Current Meatloaf or 80s Meatloaf?
70s, 80s Meatloaf. The frilly. We're talking frilly shirt, and I would do it. I don't want to get demonetized for perfectly mimicking him. So
yeah. So what I'm doing tomorrow,
basically, which one of these would you wear?
No watch. Neither. I've watched the videos. He doesn't have a watch on.
Oh, jeez. You're one of those people.
Yes.
Tony.
But no, I would probably take the Vacheron.
Okay.
Just because the tech is so impressive to me. The ability to change back and forth for the hertz and the timing, the power reserve that it lets you do. And just the fact that you can do that without losing time, without having any issues. It is so complicated of a movement.
Why wouldn't you just go with the 1.2 hertz all the time? Or
I'm going to have
is that
guess.
A dumb question? Like there's no obvious reason, right? Like there's no, like for me, like when I see that, I'm like, okay, it's cool. You can switch between the two, but why don't you just go with the one that has the longer reserve?
My guess is it's going to be, it affects all of the movements. It slows everything down so much.
Yeah. And I don't know what you could see in there to be able to notice that. You might be able to see stuff moving around better. Flashier.
The thing I was trying to see is for most people, the main thing that they would visually be looking for is a second hand, because the sweep would be less smooth the lower the hertz is. And I don't see a second hand on the watch, but, and Ron Kroll's actually already covered it in the chat. It's an accuracy issue. So every time you move your watch, because the tick and the talk is what the hertz is. So watches with higher hertz ratings tend to be more accurate than watches with lower hertz ratings, but lower hertz ratings also spare your power reserve. So it's very common nowadays. Most modern mechanical watches, other than very, very low end watches and dress watches, tend to be at least 4 hertz. Dress watches, because the second hands often aren't present or are smaller and accuracy is less important, are often 3 hertz. inexpensive mechanical movements like this. This Orient I'm wearing are often 3 hertz, but 4 hertz has become the standard for most mechanical watches. So that'd be it. It would be an accuracy issue.
I actually figured out why they did this. When your butler goes on vacation, you switch it to 1 hertz. Boom, you're covered. You don't.
Yeah.
You're not
Honestly, I think there's a joke in here somewhere that if you set it at the 1.2 hertz and fully wind it, by the time it's out of power, you're ready to buy your next Fastron, and you never wind it again. It's like problem solved. So
for me, I want to take the guts of the Constantine and smash them in to the Patek. I love
at this price point. I think you can afford it. Yeah,
and that's what I would do. I would get my butler to get a hammer and just do that. I love. Obviously, you guys don't, but I love the skeleton watch. I want to see all the little stuff moving around in there and whatnot. Little nerdy. I get it, but with the Patek, like the carving and I know Dave, you didn't like it, but I'm like, man, that is really neat to see all of that. And with this money, I'm gonna show that to the hobos and be like, look at this. You don't got this, But I'm like,
I don't have any money to give you. I already spent it.
Yeah, it's right here.
Do you have one of these watches in your stick with the thing on the back?
Yeah. Don't think I don't know you got that cart from Target. I love okay. Another thing is I'm into pocket knives, and they use a lot of different materials. So I want to see out of this industry, and some of them are doing it. I want to see the Damascus. I want to see the Damascus blends, the mocha ties. Like they can do some really cool stuff with the cases. Now, that being said, machining them's a little bit more different. You're going to pay more. But at this price point, I want to see handwork like that. And the fact you can flip it over and use it as a pocket watch, on this Patek is really cool. But do I like the dial as much? No. So for me, this is a toss up. I probably would have to go the Constantine because I love to nerd out on that, but I really enjoy that Patek and what it does too. I don't know. I'd buy them both. Not. I mean, I'm not going to do that now. Amanda would kill me, but yeah.
Okay, so I think I lost count. So Mike and Tony, you were both the Vacheron.
The Vacheron.
Dave, which were you?
I was the Patek.
And so was I. Okay, so we were split. Let me go ahead and get our poll closed. And I know the chat has been active on this one, so I will get to that. The Patek did win the viewer poll 57%. So pretty close.
Barely.
So let's see. We had a few comments. I did pop this one up while we were talking, but Richard had known the Patek has the classic Damascus vibe with the carvings, and Vacheron's more like the F1. Vaughn had said he's not elegant enough for a Patek. I think that was kind of Tony's argument. That watch is asking me to totally reinvent myself, and it ain't gonna happen. So it's not, but I'm gonna add a to further de-Patekify him. Cloud did not like the subdial positioning on the Vacheron. It reminded him of a mahjong tile. There's just a lot.
That could be the market they're aiming for, though.
Those players.
Vaughn did note that when you take the watch off at night, this being the VC watch, you can, saying at 1.2 is no big deal because the watch is sitting still. That's a good point. When we're talking about the accuracy of the higher hertz movements, it's about trying to factor in the wrist swaps and stuff. This is why clocks don't have the same problems that wristwatches do with a lot.
Or if you sneeze.
Yes. So, Richard had noted, let's be honest, if you're buying $200,000 watch, you don't care what time it is. People will make time for you. And
very true.
High carbon in Damascus would probably rust on your wrist.
That depends on what metal they used. Yeah.
Yes, and to be fair to watchmakers, they have been playing more, probably not in the same metals that you're seeing in pocket watches, but they have been playing more with materials. So obviously titanium has taken off quite a bit, both grade 2 and grade 5 for watches. Another thing that's caught on a lot lately, I haven't owned a titanium watch. I also haven't owned a ceramic watch. I'm still sort of skeptical about ceramic watches as an idea, but the idea of not needing to polish them is resonating with a lot of people, and there has been more and more demand for ceramic to be used in watches. They've used some other rarer metals as well in certain instances, but by and large,
What about bioceramic?
Yes.
Or
Well, you see,
plastic,
you didn't get the mission to Neptune, which turns the back of your hand blue because of the power of bioceramic. So, I mean,
The power of bioceramic
power by ceramic compels you.
Compels you.
That's right. All right. Well, those were all of Tony's ToT matchups. Thanks for putting together a ToT.
Those were all
Tony.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to admit they were better than mine because I think we were more torn. Like the individual pain that people felt going through most of these, being like, I don't know which to pick, be them both great or both was impressive. Quite an impressive set. And I finally now know a Rolex Tony likes because he never would tell me.
Mhm.
He would never say. He's just like you've not picked one, Dennis. I actually like.
Tony is a man.
That was the first. That was the first matchup. I knew that was the matchup going out when I first talked to you about doing a ToT. Was that matchup would be in there, and then when I was researching something completely different, I came across the Twin Beat, and I just that watch was just insane to me.
It's cool.
It
was a lot of fun to make.
We can do wrap-up plugs while we close things out. So we'll go in reverse order. Mike, what would you like to say?
Did
you have fun?
I had a great time. This was fun. Apparently my internet doesn't seem to like it too much, but this was good. I did. So thanks for having me on. I don't know the first thing about watches. I've been learning this, still relatively new. So the volume of manufacturers out there is crazy. It's crazy.
When you come at it from other hobbies, or at least other hobbies we engage with, it's and that's part of the reason I actually started doing watch content is I thought this is going to be a lot different for my brain than how pinball was, because with pinball, in one day you'll know all the manufacturers that are active, and in 2 days you'll know all the ones that were ever important prior to or after the electromechanical era. With watches, if you don't even want to touch the history, and there were so many watch companies that died when quartz came out, and just focus on today, I mean, it feels like there's 100 of them I think there are when you throw in the micro brands. I think there are over 100 players. It's,
every day I look up, I get a new one. I see a new one that I hadn't seen before.
It's overwhelming. But it makes for fun games like this because we were doing like in production pinball machine mashups. I mean, how many options are we going to have? Like 12, and 9 of them are from Stern. So being able to do this watches gives you a lot more variety because there's just so many more SKUs that are involved.
Yeah.
But thanks. It was fun to have you on, Mike.
Oh well, thank
Dave.
you. Thank you.
Who are you, Dave?
Yeah, so I'm David Dennis, co-host of Silverball Chronicles over on the Pinball Network, silverballchronicles.com. You can also search for us. We're a pinball history podcast in your podcatcher, and we're on Patreon at patreon.com/silverballchronicles.
That's right. Go support Silverball Chronicles Patreon. Eventually, they could become.
Look at this. Look at this. I'm wearing a swatch. Join my Patreon.
The Flex Swatch, the one that people couldn't get, and you came on here, rubbing it in everyone's face, leaving yellow bioceramic all over them, stains like underwear.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last year we were at TPF when the Moon Swatch stuff dropped.
Texas Pinball Festival.
And there was all the articles about the giant lines at the Swatch stores and all the insanity. I remember reading that while we were at TPF last year.
And it was funny because I was like, I had someone I think email me at my watches email account asking if I would go to the store and pick one up because we were in Dallas. Because I don't live near a Swatch boutique. Here in Kansas City we don't have one. So I was actually really close to the Swatch store. And then we looked online and saw the queues. And it was madness for a watch that was, I mean, if it didn't say Omega on the dial, that watch would be probably $100 less than it is, but it's still really, really affordable. even given that, compared to a lot of other watches. And so, yeah, it absolutely blew my mind. And I really wanted
work.
And I really wanted one for, I wanted the Pluto. Like, I really like that. Cause again, I was like, okay, well, doing this, it's swatch. I would want it to be fun. Like your Mission to the Sun is a fun color watch. It just really, I thought
one of our friends got the Saturn.
Yeah, no, that was a really, really popular one too.
So I went for work and I'm like, I'll go to the Swatch store and see what the story is. And I go and I walk right in. No big deal. Right. But of course, this was 3 weeks ago. So what are we, 12 months in? And I walk into the store and I'm like, hey, do you guys have some moon swatches? And they're like, oh yeah, we've got, yellow, Saturn, which is the red, and we've got the pink and the blue, which I think is Pluto, right? The baby blue. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, let me. So I went to go take a look at the display, and in the amount of time that I was looking at the display, 6 people came through the door and asked the same question. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Even after how long it's been out.
I know. Weird. And I was like, I'll go with the yellow. And the guy's like, oh, the yellow. And I said, yeah. And I'll go with the pink one too. And he's like, oh, no, sorry. It's only one per person per day. And I was like, well, I was going to get one for my wife, right? So I'm like, oh my God.
And so
you got one for yourself.
Yeah.
And
so I got
she
one
just
for myself,
had
and she can just go to.
Yeah.
Go where? I didn't catch that. Go where?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is audio problems. Yeah, we're actually in our closing statements right now. So for those that want to watch the ToT, unfortunately, you'll have to go back and watch the recording. But hey, Jason, good to see you, and Richard from Louisiana. I have not been to Louisiana since I was a tyke. I have some kin that lived down there, but I think they all moved to Arkansas at this point. Well, except my cousins. I think they're still down there. Kin, yeah, my kin, my southern kin side.
I got kin.
Vaughn got an affordable GW 5000U instead of instead of the Mission of the Sun. Tony, who are you for our closing? What do you?
I'm Tony Krakowski.
I guess you already introduced
co-host of the Eclectic Gamers Podcast.
You are.
So
you're gonna splash tomorrow.
Just want to say thank you for looking at my insanity of crazy little watches that I picked through with my ToT this time around. I've been I had some periods in the last couple of weeks where I had some free time that going through this and building these ToTs was really useful for burning some time. And I had a lot of fun putting it together until I realized that my first round of matchups was a little too, some of the price differences were bigger than I thought when I originally was like, oh, these two watches would go really well together. This one's 30 grand and this one's 190. No, that's not going to work. So I about halfway through, I ended up rebuilding the whole thing. But I had a lot of fun doing it. I am, if you have followed Eclectic Gamers on the Facebooks and all of that, tomorrow I am going to be spending some quality time diving into freezing cold water dressed as Meatloaf for Special Olympics Polar Plunge. And
the singer, right?
I'm looking forward to it. Yes, the singer, the singer. I have to shave yet. I still need to shave. I'm not shaving the mustache. I'm not accurate, but no, I'm definitely not shaving my legs. Not this time around. But we'll be posting some pictures. Dennis is coming with me so he can laugh at me, take some pictures and some video and stuff. So we'll definitely get some pictures and post it up. But if you would like to donate, Dennis has kindly shared the link. And if you have already donated, thank you very much. I have raised $920 so far out of my $500 goal. And the response has been amazing from all of you.
Yep, they're very close to meeting the Special Olympics goal. They're a few $1,000s away still, so I don't know if they'll make it or not. They put an ambitious goal, and this isn't Games Done Quick, where miraculously every goal is always met. So that additional support will help with their target. But I did see that your team, Tony, is in the top 10 and that's pretty much all because of you. So, because I looked at the difference, like there's Tony, and then his team isn't just like one other person, but the others combined are like $100. I'm like, what? Why are they not trying? Why do they not host podcasts? Why are they not pinball famous? Because that's your secret, is that you're pinball.
They've been doing pretty well. It's good. Our total team is up in the 1,600 range, I think, last time I saw it.
Oh, I rounded down by like
we're going pretty well.
$500.
I can't beat the one guy who's up over $7,000 by himself.
Well, not with that attitude.
If you'd sell that tech, it wouldn't be a problem.
Well, yeah,
Right.
yeah. If I sell when Dennis gives me that Daytona Pepsi for my birthday, and I wear it, and I'll wear it several times just to make people happy.
That's what friendship is for.
Yeah, and then as great of a beautiful thing as that would be, then it gets sold so that I can pay off 100% of my debts, and then still go buy like another really, really expensive watch. It'd be the greatest birthday present ever. But
okay,
yeah.
Well, and I'm Dennis with Watches with Dennis. I see Dave's cameras already went to bed. It was very tired. So,
Night night, Dave.
I'll just, that's just how he is. That's how that's Silverball Chronicles for you. But anyway, thanks everyone who was able to tune in live.
It was the Canadian goodbye.
Yes. And other than that, if you're watching the recording, I hope you enjoyed the matchups. I think Tony did a really good job with them. Thanks, Mike, for joining us for the first time. Thanks, Tony and Dave, for joining us for another one. And we'll catch you all on a future one at some point whenever someone decides to come up with one. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.
Yeah.